Hi guys, this is Julian from SM Battle Reports giving you an in-depth review of the Genestealer Cult Codex. Can't wait for this. So guys, this is the Codex. Let's jump right into it then. I'll start off by saying that Games Workshop once again has done an amazing job with this Codex, with all the artwork and the fluff and everything. It's absolutely fantastic. They just keep doing it better and better each time in my opinion, and this book is no exception at all to all that. Now, I am very excited about this book because this is one of my favorite armies now, and I've been playing the Index a fair bit, and it's been difficult with the Index because you end up playing the same list over and over. It just tends to be a big Genestealer spam, coming from Cult Ambush, rolling the dice, hoping you get well, get a bad result, game goes to pot. And it was getting a bit stale. But now it's all different. Now we've got a lot more new toys at our disposal. So I'll start off with the creeds, which I'm sure most of you have heard of already by now, but I'll just give a little bit of opinion on these creeds of my own. So, to start off, the Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor. Now, with this is one I do believe we will be seeing a fair bit of in the competitive scene, because it allows you, it gives you +1 to your advance and charge rolls and the moment you appear from Cult Ambush or from turn 1. Now this, originally when I read it, didn't seem like that much, because I was thinking, well, okay, fine, your 9-inch charge roll now goes into an 8-inch. I don't see that as such a great deal. However, there is so much synergy in this book that lets you increase your odds significantly. You can get up to 6 inches away with just +1 bonuses, or there's a strata going later, which allows you can effectively do a 1-inch charge if you so desire. So this is going to be one definitely to look out for, I reckon, in my opinion. Pauper Princes as well, it's great. Rerolls to hit, it's fantastic. It means that you won't, in my opinion, you won't need so much to rely on support characters to give them all a +1 to your hit rolls in combat and stuff, because Pauper Princes get all the rerolls. So you can spend those points instead of spending them on a Primus or Patriarch, or Patriarch's pretty good in combat on their own anyway. You can use those points elsewhere because you've already got the reliability for your rerolls. Yeah, and this also works in Heroic Intervention, which is quite interesting. Hive Cult is probably my least favorite because it's when you fall back, you lose half your models, but they get to shoot at a -1 ballistic skill. Now, Hive Cult is all about shooting, and I can't really understand why someone will go Genestealer Cults to focus on a shooty army, because it kind of goes against what the Genestealers really are. I mean, I'm sure there's many people that like them, and great to them. But that's not one of my favorites, although there is a few tricks you can do with them. Bladed Cog is pretty good as well. +1 to invul, 6-up invul if you don't have any, to all Cult Creed models, plus infantry get to move and shoot heavy weapons without any penalties. So both great rules. Now, I will say this here. Yes, the Genestealers and the Patriarchs don't get the benefits of these Cult Creeds. So you're not looking at 4+ invul Genestealers running along, or Genestealers with a +1 to their advance and charge rolls when they pop up from the Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor or anything like that, because it would be pretty ridiculous, to be honest. Like it would break the game, in my opinion. So I do actually quite like the fact that they don't, because it does force you to play other units much more. You've also got the Cult of the Rusted Claw, which is models I'm painting mine up. It's okay, it's pretty decent. I don't think it's as strong as some of the other ones, but it's you know, it can be worked with. You get a +1 to your save if you've been targeted by a weapon with AP 0 or -1, which is a bonus because cults die pretty quickly. So having this little buff as well, it will stack with cover. So you can have your Neophytes effectively with a 3-up cover save, which is pretty sweet, to be honest. And in addition to that, they get a perk to the bikers where they can advance and shoot assault weapons normally, or move and shoot heavy weapons normally without any penalty, which is a decent bonus as well. And the final one, and probably the one we'll be seeing of the most, is the Twisted Helix. And the Twisted Helix is add 1 to strength characteristics and add 2 to advanced rolls per unit. That is ridiculous. You're talking about a 7-point Acolyte model with strength 5 base, right? With the rending claws and all that, and 2 extra to your advanced rolls. That is very, very tasty. Plus, you know, aberrants as well. If you're going to put hammers to double their strength, it will all of a sudden make them strength 6 or strength 12 base. And then again, along with this codex, there's many other ways you can buff up your strength of your units. You can get characters up to strength 22, if I'm not mistaken, which is bonkers. You would never need it so high, but you can do it with the right strats, relics, and synergy. But yeah, in my opinion, we're going to see a lot of Twisted Helix and 4-armed Emperor in competitive play. Now, a very important rule here. It's the Cult Ambush, which is where we get these little tokens from now. I love this rule. I think it's fantastic. It makes the army completely unique. It makes them very unpredictable for your opponents. Cult Ambush, for anyone who doesn't already know, every unit basically in this codex has a Cult Ambush ability, so as opposed to deploying them, you can instead deploy one of these blips. Now, you don't have to necessarily assign, say, okay, this Neophytes is going to Cult Ambush, and you place a blip. That blip doesn't necessarily become Neophytes. You decide when you reveal them what each unit is going to be. In addition, they can't be targeted by shooting attacks or any other attacks. Now, if you have first turn, you must reveal all your blips at the start of your turn. If your opponent has first turn, and this is where it gets very interesting, you only reveal it, or you must reveal it rather, at the end of their movement phase. So that means they've got an entire turn of movement where they have no idea what is where. So you can completely tailor your deployment to what's coming against you. And again, there's little stratagems and stuff which I'll talk about later, where you can, add even more to the subterfuge here and confusion of the opponent. Now, also, instead of placing it in Cult Ambush, you can put them underground, which is basically follows the normal rules for Deep Strike. So you can come in as from turn 2, and you have to be 9 inches away. And Games Workshop are very kind, and also given a little template for 9 inches, because they know we're going to be using it a fair deal. So thank you for that. So yeah, that's the Cult Ambush. Oh, another rule here, the Unquestioning Loyalty. This is like the old like Lookout Sir roll type of thing in Fantasy, which is great because the characters, most of them are very, very squishy. They're like toughness 3, 4 wounds, 5-up save. Anything touches them, they'll die quite comfortably. However, with this rule, this was also in the index and has remained unchanged. If you're within 3 inches of a friendly cult, Genestealer cult unit, on a 4-up you can transfer the wound. So if you fail your save before the damage is rolled, if I'm not mistaken, on a 4-up, one model within 3 inches from a unit within 3 inches is slain instantly. You don't transfer the wounds; it just outright slays them, which is great for protecting characters against snipers or anything of the sorts. So yeah, that is pretty much unchanged from before. So yeah, so having a look into the units now, go straight to the HQs. We've got one brand new character, which is the Jackal Alphas, Now, this is a really cool female character with a sniper on the bike. Unfortunately, I reckon she's probably the weakest out of all the characters. Now, she does have her uses. She's got a rule here, priority target sighted. So it lets you pick a visible enemy unit within 36 inches, and all your friendly cult units within 6 inches gets to reroll ones to shoot against them, and bikers get to reroll within 12 inches. So there are synergies you can use to make this character very viable. I mean, other than that, she's got a sniper rifle. It does D3 damage, -2, the mortal wounds and the 6+2 wounds. That part's standard, but you know, you want single shot. This is skill 2+, so if you move, it's on 3s. Unless you got Cult of Rusted Claw, where you would ignore that. -1 to hit her as well. So she's okay. She can be used, but some of the other characters are much more appealing. I mean, the Patriarch, for one. Patriarch's remained virtually unchanged from before. It's still strength 6 over the Tyranid's Broodlord, which is strength 5. So we've got that little bit of a perk over there. Other than that, it's pretty much identical. I mean, you can buff up this character a fair bit with Waller traits and stuff, which I'll go on in a bit later. The Familiar, as well as previously, it's unchanged, 12 points, allows you to cast an additional power once per game, and also you can use it to take your first wounds and off the Familiar to save your character. Magus as well, unchanged, just gone up in points, up to 80 points. The only thing different now with the Magus is the Spiritual Leader rule, where it would buff up friendly units within 6 inches, whereas it will give them a deny the witch roll, basically. So if they get targeted for a spell, they've got a denial of 1 type of thing, to think about it like that, except if they're Psyker. So the Magus can't use the power on itself, because before it effectively kind of had 2 denial chances. Now it's kind of stopped that. But other than that, unchanged. Primus has changed because Cult Ambush has changed now from the index. So it still has a +1 to hit bubble within 6 inches, which is fantastic. And then it's got Meticulous Planner, which is the first time this model is set up on the battlefield. Select 1 unit on the battlefield. Reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly cult units out of the Cult Ambush ability, whilst they're within 6 inches of this model when targeting the enemy units, which is pretty good. Again, there's a lot of synergy you can maximize this quite vastly. So I still believe we're going to see Primuses in most competitive lists. Patriarchs more than likely as well. The Icon World's fantastic. Again, still pretty much the same as before. The only thing, giving the 6+ Feel No Pain bubble within 6 inches. The only thing new about it is now it allows Aberrants and Abominants to reroll 1s when doing the Bestial Vigor roll, which is basically the Feel No Pain roll. So that's an extra perk, because before you didn't get any bonus for that whatsoever. Other than that, the Abominant is still an absolute beast. It's 105 points if I'm not mistaken. Same as before, can regenerate its wounds, -1 casting within 12 inches, flat 3 damage up to D6. The only thing different now, apart from the points, is that it's got a -1 to hit, which is unfortunate. But again, there's ways around it. You can use the Relic in the Vigilus book, which doesn't have the -1 to hit, and there you go. You've pretty much got your old Abominant back. Again, lots of ways to up the attacks, lots of ways to up the strength, which I'll go in later. So Abominant is going to be another crucial one in most competitive lists, in my opinion. Acolyte hybrids now, onto troops. This one is awesome. They used to be 11 points, used to be grossly over costed. I could never fit them into any of my armies previously. It was toughness 3, 5 save, 11 points a model. It dies just like Guardsmen, if not faster. Now they're only 7 points. Now, with the fact of 7 points, with the Twisted Helix of bonus to making strength 5 on the charge, a +2 to advance, all that, or the +1 to the charge with the 4-armed Emperor, all that. Now they become very, very viable. Now you can actually play with them. You can have big blobs on them. They're only 7 points small, so it doesn't dent your army too much. The heavy weapons have all gone down in points, I believe. Still think the Rock Sword is going to be the go-to one, which is a standard ×2, -4, 2 damage, and there's no penalties to your hit rolls with that. So you can still be hitting on 2s with a Primus nearby and all that synergy. All that old synergy still stands there. So I highly rate hybrids. Neophytes pretty much unchanged. I don't think there's anything different. It's pretty much like a standard guardsman, but with Cult Creed and Cult Ambush, obviously. Other than that, not much different there. Brood Brothers Infantry Squad, pretty much guardsmen, but worse, because you don't get the orders or any of the perks from there, and they don't get the Cult Creeds either. So they are only 4 points, so they're still a point cheaper than Neophytes. I don't see myself using them ever, so I rather just pay that 1 extra point to have the perks of the Cult Creed, in my opinion. But other than that, yeah. Hybrid Metamorphs, fortunately, they're still pretty terrible in my books. They're still overcosted. I can't ever figure out what the purpose of this unit is that either an Acolyte or Genestealer doesn't do the same, if not better. I just don't get it. I don't understand. It was a whole different thing in 7th edition. 7th edition, they were quite essential. Now, I just, yeah, you can up them so they're always hitting on 2, so you don't need the perks of characters around them, but I'm still not convinced. If anyone there has anything to say about them and show me otherwise, show me I'm completely wrong about this, please tell me. I still can't find any reason to use them. Now, Aberrants. Aberrants are fantastic. This is your go-to unit. They've gone down in points again. It's pretty much the same from the last box set they came up with the Space Wolves. The name escapes me right now. You're going to want power picks most of the time, get all those extra rending claws attacks every time you attack with them. They still reduce the damage by 1 to a minimum of 1 when you're making your Beastly Vigor, you feel no pain rolls type of thing. They still hit like a 10-ton hammer if you equip them with hammers, although it gets a bit bit costly when you do that, but I still think it's a top unit. I rate them higher than my next unit, which is the Genestealers. Genestealers have remained completely unchanged. It's identical to the Index because they don't get the Cult Creeds, so it's literally identical to the Index. And they're still good. They've still got the uses. I'm not dissing them whatsoever, but point for point, personally, I'll go with Aberrants, but I'm sure other people will probably disagree with me there. And now, auto include one of the new models, fantastic model, Clamorous. This unit allows, you don't need a Cult Ambush. The aura is always in effect. It adds 1 to advance and charge rolls for cult units within 6 inches of it. That is amazing. That's brilliant. You're arriving from reserves, you bring a Clamorous along. Now your unit has gone down from a charge distance of 9 to 8 for nothing. Link that with the 4-armed Emperor, your charge distance is now gone to 7, right? You can also, if you really want to go crazy, you could do, for instance, with the Vigilus book, you can get the Warlord trait for the Abominant, which if I'm not mistaken adds 1 to your charge distance, right? And for friendly aberrant units within 6 inches of him, right? Bring a Clamorous, so that's now +2, make them the 4-armed Emperor, that's +3. That's a 6-inch charge when you arrive on the table. That is insane. See, this is what I'm on about. There's so much synergy in this book. I don't think any other GW book has as much synergy as this book. I love it. It's fantastic. The only problem I have with it is the fact that I can't use it all at once. You have to, points rack up fairly quickly when you start going, oh, I'll do this trick, I'll do that trick, oh, that's great. Then you realize, oh God, I've overshot my 2,000 point army by 500 points. So, but it opens up the doors so much. You're going to have quite a fair bit of varied lists and choices amongst players with this book. Other than that, it has a bubble as well that prevents units within 12 inches from arriving from reserves, which is brilliant. And it has a little mortal wounds thing on a 6. You deal 1 mortal wound to an enemy unit within 6 inches. You roll a d6 for everyone. So it's like, yeah, there's a little extra perk there. Locus, fantastic model. I can't really see myself using it. It's mostly like a bodyguard, where it does the lookout sir rule. They've got the unquestioning bodyguard, the unquestioning loyalty rule, and instead of doing it on a 4-up, it does it on a 2-up, right? So if a character, for instance, takes a wound, this character can take it on a 2-up and only suffers 1 mortal wound for it, so it won't just die instantly. It's got 4 wounds, so it's fairly good for that. It's good because you can heroically intervene towards a character up to 6 inches, which is a nice little thing. It's not great in combat. It's okay. It's, strength 4 attacks, -3 with the locust blades. Increase the damage from 1 to 2 if it's done a heroic intervention or charge. So yeah, okay, it's 40 points. It's not expensive. The Sanctus, another awesome model. This one's pretty cool. This is the one which you always see with a blade, but it's also got a sniper rifle, the anti-psyker sniper rifle, which is effectively the same as a normal sniper rifle, does D3 damage instead though. So, it's actually -1, so it's a bit different. So strength 4, -1, D3 damage, 6s do a mortal wound. However, if it damages a psyker, if a psyker takes a wound from it rather, it automatically perils, which is pretty sweet, because if you can make a character perils and die from the perils afterwards, you get that bubble around of mortal wounds that splash into units all around. So it's quite fun. It's quite quirky. It's 60 points to have with a sniper rifle, 55 without. I think it's quite fun. I wouldn't use it competitively, but for fun, it's great. It also can use one of the stratagems for free, which costs normally 3 points, where when it appears, you can shoot the moment it appears. So you get to shoot twice in the turn that it appears. Or if you go with a blade, you get to move d6 closer. Kellamorph as well, that's fantastic. That's the 4-armed guy with all the pistols you've been seeing the models for Yonks now. He can target characters within 12 inches. He's got 6 shots, strength 4, -1, 2 damage apiece. If any of these pistol shots hit, he gets to roll extra additional shots. They obviously don't make any more additional shots, but when you're hitting on 2s, you're going to have about 5-6 hits, which means another 5-6 dice as well rolling. So you're going to have at least 10 or 11 hits in your hands. When you're targeting characters, strength 4, -1, 2 damage apiece, you can kill a pretty standard 4 wound, 5 wound character with this one model. He also has a 5-up invul, and if he kills a model, then friendly units within 6 inches of him get to reroll hit rolls of 1, which is a nice perk. So you probably want to be shooting 2 pistols at 1 unit and at the HQ or character, and 1 pistol into the troops, just to kill that 1 model to get that bonus. So he's a good one to have. Nexus is another auto-include model. He's your command point farmer. He rolls on both turns. You use a stratagem, you roll 1 dice on a 6-up, you get it. If your opponent uses 1 on a 6-up, you get it. Now, if you have a Primus in your army, when you use a stratagem, your 6-up goes up to a 5-up. And if you have a Clamorous in your army, when your opponent does the stratagem on a 5-up, you'll steal theirs. So it's a fairly reliable source of gaining command points. And the stratagems here are awesome. They're really, really good. I can't rate them anymore. I love them. And you're going to want this guy to keep farming those command points, because you're going to keep needing to use them. Biophagus, another new awesome model. Love it. It's only 35 points, Biophagus. Mixed opinions about him. He's great. Obviously, you need to use a unit of aberrants. If you don't use any unit of aberrants, don't bother taking the Biophagus. But when he appears within 1 inch of an aberrant unit, you can do a genomic enhancement. So you roll on a 2-up, none of your aberrants die. On a 1, one of them is slain, unfortunately. But after that, regardless whether you roll a 1 or a 2-up, you roll a d3, and you can up the strength of all the aberrants, or up the toughness, or up the attacks, depending upon the roll. Now, this is going to be used once per game or once per aberrant unit. So it is a nice boost. It can make aberrants even more deadly, even though they're pretty deadly as they are. You can have Alchemist Familiar, which allows you to roll 2d3 instead, which I don't really see the point of at all, because it is 15 extra points. But it is fun. It is fun. The only problem is once he's done his ability, he doesn't really do anything else. Okay, he's got a weapon that is strength 4 in combat and does d3 damage. It's like, okay, always wounds on 2 up. It's like, okay, fine, 3 attacks, yay. But he'll die to anything that targets him. He's still toughness 3, 4 wounds, 5 up save. So now onto fast attack. Right, it's just so many new models to go over. Fast attack, Achilles Ridge Runners. Right, awesome models. These are the Dune Buggy ones you're looking at. Again, a bit of a mixed bag for me. They're toughness 5, 8 wounds, 4 up save, so they die pretty quickly. You can have a 6 up feel no pain on them with the flare launcher. Now it's a bit odd because it is a gun platform, right? I mean, it's got scout moves, so you can move 9 inches as well before the game starts. You can have the ability for heavy mine laser, heavy mortar, or missile launcher. If I was taking it, I'd probably always go with the mining laser. It's D3 las cannon shots at range 36, basically, which is great. But it's on a model with physical 4 up, and if you're moving, it's only a 5 up. So and anything that targets him with substantial firepower will take him out quite comfortably. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 84 points or something like that kit, so it is still fairly cheap. It can be a bit of a gun line to your army because the Genestealer cards aren't very gun liney, as you can imagine. They're not great at standing back and shooting a whole lot. They want to get in your face, so it's okay. It's cool. I'll probably still buy the models. I think the model's fantastic. But yeah, other than that, it's not that much. I mean, you can get a spotter, increase the range of the 36-inch range. Mining laser up by 6, so it makes it 42, which is quite nice. But you lose the feel no pain for that. So the next one is the Ashland Jackals. Now these are the biker guys. Now the models are phenomenal. Love the models. The rules are pretty terrible. Like, I mean, it's got its uses. They can be objective grabbing and all that. They have a -1 to hit, but they're only toughness 4, 2 wounds, 5 up save. So anything that does hit them is gonna start killing them pretty comfortably. Now, you give them shotguns, you give them grenade launchers. You can have the quad bike as well with a heavy flamer or a mining laser and stuff. So it's okay, but I mean, with a Cult of the Rusted Claw, which is faction I'm painting my guys up, they are more useful in my opinion because their 5 up save goes up to a 4 up if they're targeted by AP 0 or 1 or -1 rather. They can advance and fire their assault weapons still, or they can move normally and still fire the heavy weapons at normal. So they're more kitted to the Cult of the Rusted Claw. If you're not using Cult of the Rusted Claw, I can't really find the points of using this unit other than make a cheap 40-man unit, 4 guys, capture objectives here and there, and just be a bit of a nuisance in that sense. You can equip them all though with the Demolition Charges, that is good. It's only 5 points more, makes each model now 15 points. Demolition Charge is a grenade weapon, range 6, 1 use only, D6, strength 8, -3 D3 damage each. So that is quite tasty. You can have a bunch of these, zoom up and throw grenades. Now, I have a little idea cooking with these guys, which I'll go on a bit when we start going into the stratagems and stuff, of something I'd like to really try out with the bikes and the demo charges. So I'll get into that in a bit. Now we've got Sentinels, you've got the Armored Sentinel, Scout Sentinel, same as the Guard stuff, pretty much. Seen it, heard it all before. I probably wouldn't bother. Maybe the Scout Sentinel, move them up a bit, 35 points, keep them as cheap as possible. But other than that, I probably wouldn't bother with them. Onto the heavy sports, we've got Lehman Russ. So pretty much, again, same as the Guard, Lehman Russ, slightly worse. We don't get the orders or the relics of the Guards, rather, and they don't get any perks from well, they don't get many perks from this book. But other than that, it's pretty much a standard Lemon Rust, so everyone's seen them, everyone knows about them. Now the Brood Brothers Heavy Weapon Squad, again, is pretty much a Guardsman heavy weapon unit. You've seen it all before. Same thing again. They don't get the cult creeds or anything, but you know, a little bit cheap. The only time I'll probably use these is to make a cheap brigade. Get 3 units of 3 mortars, which only costs 40 something points for that. And you got your cheap heavy support choices already sorted for you. Then Goliath Rock Grinder. This has gone up from weapon skill 5 up to 4 up, I think. I think it was 5 up before. It's pretty cool. It's lots of fun. You've got 6 attacks, strength 9, -2 D3 damage each, D3 additional attacks when you do charge, so it's fun. Is it competitive? Probably not, but I love them. They're great. They're great. Other than that, pretty much the same as it used to be. Toughness 7, 6 up, feel no pain. Although the Incinerator is... it's still heavy, yeah. It's still heavy. So, yeah. Other than that. Goliath Truck gone down in points. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as well. Cult Chimera is the same as the standard Guardsman Chimera. The only difference is that this one can only carry Brood Brothers. So I can't really see myself using them, to be honest, because I'd much rather get Neophytes in a Goliath truck for the same amount of points as getting Brood Brothers in a Cult Chimera. Cult Chimera is more survivable, yes, but the Acolytes perform better in my opinion because of the Cult Creeds. So yeah, and then you got your Tectonic Frag Drill, which is your piece of fortification that can do mortal wounds across the board or mortal wounds to units around it. It also lets you return units into Cult Ambush for free instead of having to use the stratagem that we all had to use before. So that's pretty sweet. It's fairly cheap. It's not amazing, but yeah. Other than that, that's pretty much all the units. Now, let's go into some of the juicy stuff. Let's go into Psychic Powers. Now, Psychic Powers here, I do think this army's probably got some of the best Psychic Powers in the game. You've still got your 3 ones from the Index, which is Mass Hypnosis, Mind Control, and Might from Beyond. All 3 function exactly the same. The only difference is Mind Control has gone up from a 6 to cast to a 7, which is fair enough, in my opinion, because it's still fairly, somewhat reliable, rather, to cast, and you can still cast on a night and unleash hell into one of their own units, which is fantastic. Mass Hypnosis is great for stopping the Overwatch, making them fight last and -1 to the hit rolls, which is like amazing, stacked with rules there. Might from Beyond as well, add 1 to the strength and attacks of a unit. Again, amazing with Genestealers or big massive blob of cheap Acolytes or Aberrants and all that. Everyone can use this to full advantage there. Other than those 3, we've got 3 new ones. We've got Psionic Blast, which is a warp charge value of 5. You pick an enemy unit within 18, visible to the Psycho, roll 2d6. If the result is less than the highest leadership characteristic in that unit, it suffers 1 mortal wound, otherwise it suffers d3 mortal wounds. This, I'll probably rarely ever get to use it. However, it does say pick an enemy unit, which means you can just pick characters. So bear that in mind. Mental Onslaught is fantastic if you use on a Patriarch. This is pretty much your old Mirror of Minds, where you do a roll-off with your opponent and you add up your leadership. If you score higher than theirs, you do a mortal wound and you keep going until they draw or beat your result. Now, considering a Broodlord is leadership 10, right? You can effectively ally in a unit of Tyranids to get the horror, to make them a -1. If you're targeting something with leadership 8, you can bring it down to leadership 7, right? You're now all of a sudden from, if you have leadership 10 and you roll a 1, it puts you up in 11. Your opponent needs to roll a 4+ to beat you, or to draw or beat you to stop this power going off. This power can be relentless, and it is going to be a lot of fun. It's only casting at 6 as well, which is great. And other than that, we've got Psychic Stimulus, which I like very much, seeming as I'm probably leaning away from Genestealers. This ability is going to help greatly. This is only warp charge value of 6, and it allows you to charge after advancing, which is great. Although not if you fell back. But nevertheless, it is great. Although if you do fail to get it off, you're going to be caught out in the open a bit. But other than that, love it. Warlord traits. Warlord traits are great as well. We've got some here. You've got the one you're probably going to be seeing a lot of on the Patriarch, which is Biomorph Adaptation. Add 1 to Warlord's attacks and strength characteristics, which is insane. You're making strength 7 attacks with his rerolling to wounds. Again, there's other ways to buff up his strength, buff up his attacks. You can make him even more ridiculous than what he already is. Other than that, you've got 1 to subtract 1 from your hit rolls, which would be fun if you put in a Jackal and makes it -2. You've got another one, you've got the one from the chapter approved book, which allows units within 6 inches to do heroic intervention, which is very good actually, and not used a lot. I do think there's a lot of potential in that one Warlord trait. However, there's a lot of good Warlord traits as well. You've got Alien Majesty, which add 3 to your Warlord's aura, so all of a sudden your Primus, who adds 1 to hit within units within 6 inches, he's now doing it to units within 9 inches. Which on rerolling 1s to wounds, instead of 6 inches, is now 9 inches as well. So that is a fantastic Warlord trait to have. And Born Survivor is also quite fun, which -1 from the damage sustained to a minimum of 1. Now, if you put this on an Abominant, you are all of a sudden going from -1 to -2. So if someone damages you with a damage 3 weapon, you're reducing that down to just 1. So that can lead to some funny shenanigans there. And then you've got the Cult Creed specific Warlord traits. You've got the Cult of the Formed Emperor one, which is fantastic. And its main ability is it gives you D3 free command points at the start of the game, which is awesome. Free command points is great. You'll always want free command points. You've got a Hive Cult, which rerolls 1s for ranged weapons within 6 inches, which again synergizes well with the shooting. You've got the Bladed Cog, which you basically can choose an enemy unit at the start of the game, and all Bladed Cog units within 6 inches of your Warlord get to reroll wound rolls against that, which would be great if you target a Knight, for instance, or your Genestealers with Might from Beyond, now Strength 5, wounding on 5s with rerolls. You're going to get a lot of wounds going in from there. The Cults of Rusted Claw is not great. Basically increases the AP of your close combat attacks an extra -1 for every roll of 6, which I don't really see the point of, because most of your close combat attacks is going to be Rending Claws, which are already -4, so making it -5 is quite redundant in my opinion. Pauper Princes adds 2 to the Lookout Sir rule effectively, so they're looking out on 2-ups all the time, which is brilliant. Great survivability there. And the Twisted Helix, which increases damage characteristic of weapons used by your Warlord by 1. So you can make your Patriarch D3 plus 1 damage for every wound, or 3 plus 1, so 4 damage for every roll of a 6. So that's brilliant there. Now, we'll get onto some of the juicy stratagems. I won't go over all of them, but I'll go over some of the ones that particularly stand out. So one of the stratagems here is pretty much the same as the Dark Angels one, where you can hold, for just 1 command point, hold all your Maelstrom cards secret, which is a lot of fun. I think that's great, to be honest, for just 1 command point. Keep a mission secret. I really do like that one. You've got the Brood Coven one. So if you have a Patriarch, and Patriarch has to be a Warlord as well. Did forget to mention that. That is true. It has to be a Warlord. But if you use this stratagem for only 1 command point, you can select up to 1 Magus and 1 Primus and give them each Warlord trait. So you can have 3 Warlord traits running in in your army, which is great. That's pretty decent for just one. Now, they came from below, which is only one command point as well. When you use a stratagem before you reveal your ambush markers, which are these over here, select up to 3 units from your army that are set up in ambush, and basically you put them underground. So normal restrictions are you can have up to half your units and your match play points in underground in reserves. Right. However, this lets you put in an additional 3 units into underground, and as this reveals once the game has already begun, it doesn't contribute to that half point, so you can still do that. So that is pretty tasty if you're going to go very, very heavily deep strike as well. You've got the Lurk in the shadows. If you're on a piece of area terrain, you can't be targeted unless you're the closest unit, which is a nice little perk there. 2 command points. Other than that, you got a perfect ambush. Now this is the one you're going to see all the time. Every Genestealer cult player is going to use perfect ambush. It is 3 command points, but it allows you to move d6 inches once you've appeared from cult ambush. So they're gonna, or you can shoot and then shoot again in the shooting phase. But more often than not, you're probably going to see them move that d6 to almost guarantee that charge. It's fantastic stratagem, and you are going to see it in every game. Another little stratagem which is quite fun here is a scanner decoys. So when you're deploying your little blips, you can claim you're going to do a standard decoy for just 1 command point, and instead of placing 1 for a unit, you place 4 blips that turn. Now blips are great because I did forget to mention this. The enemy, when they move, they can't get within 9 inches of them, so they can be used very, very effectively to screen your units. You have them all along the front line, spaced out. You get a few extra ones for free using this stratagem, and all of a sudden your alpha striking turn 1 charging opponent gets caught on the heels. They have to be 9 inches away from you, and then when you deploy within an inch, and then 6 inches of that one model you deployed, so you can still hang fairly back when you reveal. So this is a nice little stratagem to have depending upon what your opponent is bringing. You've still got your return to the shadows for 1 command point. You can send a unit back into reserves, which is fantastic. And now another one I love is lying in wait. 2 command points. Now, when you bring a unit from reinforcements, they can be placed anywhere on the board, but have to be more than 3 inches away from enemy models. Now they can't charge, because that would be ridiculous. However, they can still shoot in the shooting phase. Now, I love this because there is quite a bit of potential in this one, in this little strat. You can use it if your opponent has not thought out their positioning quite well enough. You can all of a sudden bring 20 guys within 3 inches, or just 3 inches away from one of their characters, and just snipe off their character with enough shots. You can put hand flamers on your acolytes, only 1 point models, d6 auto hits, 20 acolytes with hand flamers. That's 20 d6 auto hits on a character that's just from nowhere, which is brilliant. It's brilliant. Or you can get a 20-man unit of Neophytes. You're fighting against a very aggressive turn 1 charging style, well, not turn 1 charging, but like a very aggressive assault army. You can all of a sudden put a massive speed bump by just lining acolytes or lining Neophytes in front of them, just spaced out 2 inches apart. You can all of a sudden box in an army, if they've castled up in the corner, for instance, from moving out, unless they've got the fly keyword, or like Harlequins can move through units and stuff like that. But it does add a lot to the shenanigans you can do. You can all of a sudden just stop a knight from moving in a turn. Just surround it. There you go. You're not going anywhere now. Like, you're sacrificing the unit will die, but it can be crucial depending on the game. So there's a lot of potential in this one strat. It's one, probably, if not my favorite of all the ones I've read here. You've got the extra explosives where 10 guys can throw grenades. up to 5 of them can be the Demo Charges. The Demo Charges I mentioned earlier is that Strength 8 minus 3 D3 damage one, which is very, very strong. You've got your standard one to get the extra relics and all that, and then you've got the one that everybody is going to hate. If you are using the Cult of the Fallen Emperor, which you probably will be in competitive play because you're gonna want to need to use this stratagem, which is effectively the same stratagem that the Drukhari had, where you can deny your strat on a 2-up, which is horrible. It's identical to the Drukhari one. The only difference is it costs 3 command points as opposed to 4. So we'll see. They're probably going to raise it to 4 now, because I reckon this book was written before the amendments to the chapter approved. So yeah, but that even if it's 4, it's still a very, very, very good power. Other than that, you've got one little thing I'm thinking about. I mentioned about with the bikes earlier, a little trick I'm trying to cook up here. You've got to drive-by demolitions. So when you use this strat, again, it can only be used on a rusted core biker. Right? You add 1 to the hit rolls and wound rolls for their grenade weapons. Okay, and then after it's resolved all its shooting attacks, it can then move as if it was a movement phase. So I have a little thing I want to try out of using 5 of these guys, each of the demo, right? Come out from reserves using the lying in wait stratagem, so I'm only 3 inches away. Use the extra explosive stratagem, so now all 5 of them can throw their demo charges, right? And then, I mean, this is a lot of command. You're talking 4 command points doing this, but it sounds a lot of fun. And then use drive-by demolitions, right, to give them a +1 to hit and to wound. Now, if you really want to go ridiculous, you can have a Kelemorph as well there, who shoots a single troop unit to give them rerolls of 1 for the shooting. You can have a Primus as well come up to allow rerolls of 1 to wound. If you do all that, all of a sudden you'll end up with a biker unit that comes up, has 5 D6 shots or grenades, right? Hitting on 2s, right? It's hitting on 2s because the Jackal would give it a +1 as well with its ability. So you're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. And now, if you're targeting a knight, something toughness 8, you're still wounding it on 3s, rerolling 1s. Now that is a lot of grenades to someone for someone to have to handle. It could potentially kill out knight. It depends if they rotated shields and all that kind of stuff. But if not, it can severely cripple one. And then after doing all that, you can just move out, which sounds. I really want to try it. It sounds like a lot of fun. Bladed Cog one's pretty decent as well. That one, for all your hit rolls of 6, you get to roll an additional hit roll. If you're targeting Imperium, it's on a 5 or 6. If you're targeting Adeptus Mechanicus, it's on a 4-up, which is ridiculous because you have a big unit of Acolytes against an Adeptus Mechanicus unit. Cast this 1 command point stratagem. Every time they're rolling a 4-up, you get to roll additional dice to hit, which is mental, absolutely mental. Other than that, it's and the Twisted Helix one is pretty good as well. For Aberrants, allows them to make another attack in close combat. So it's the only way you can get to do that if you're using a Twisted Helix, and it has to only be the Aberrants. So that's pretty good. 3 command points as well. Now some of the relics are pretty damn good in my opinion. You got the Amulet of the Void Worm, adds 1 to saving rolls for the bearer. So all of a sudden, if you put it on Patriarch, it's now got 3-up save, 4-up invul, right? In addition, enemy units cannot fire Overwatch at this bearer, which is amazing. That is pretty disgusting, in my opinion, really. So I'm very tempted to use this a lot of times. However, there are many other ones which are also very tempting. There's lots of great relics and strats and everything in this codex. I mean, you still got the banner, the Cult Ascendants, which is from the old chapter approved book. which is add 1 to strength characteristics for within units within 6 inches. It can only be put on an icon ward. That is amazing. You know, now you've got, you know, strength 5 acolytes, Twisted Helix now the strength 6, Might from Beyond now the strength 7, with 3 attacks on their rending claws plus the cultist knife. Ridiculous, ridiculous. So much potential to keep layering up all these additional stats and stuff. Other than that, you got the crouchling, which is pretty decent as well. Allows you an extra power and also reduces all the casting values by 1, which is pretty good if you want to rely heavily on casting those spells. Another great one is the Elixir of the Prime Specimen for the Twisted Helix. Increase the attacks, toughness, and wounds characteristics of the bearer by 1. So again, just think about stacking all this on a Patriarch or on Abominants. It just gets silly. It gets really, really silly. It's just about figuring out all those different layering potentials that there is. But yeah, that's the Genestealer Cult Codex there for you. I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to play this out more and more and try out all the different things. I'm writing lists left, right, and center. I don't know what to focus on because there's so many different opportunities here. It's going to be you're going to see a lot of different types of lists with the competitive players and stuff. Yes, there's going to be a lot of similarities, but there is a lot of potential here. So, Genestealer Cult Codex, awesome. Get it. I highly recommend.